All right, wherever you are, coming into a comfortable seated position for a moment to just land into your space. We're gathered as a community, and I do truly appreciate you coming to join me live. I enjoy having a schedule and a time to meet and see you, even if it's brief in our conversations. I will always stick around a few minutes after and a few minutes before. So always feel free to chime in and fill me in on what's been going on. Now, today's practice, I thought we would focus some attention, of course, on our breathing, and we'll start with that in a moment, but in a way that is bringing an anchoring to how we're feeling and where we are. We can feel really disconnected or disjointed in our mind. Our breath can be a really great tool to bring us back into the present moment and to tap into our inner strength and courage. Now, there are times in our day where we might feel defeated or depleted, and coming to our mat for this hour is just a wonderful time to reconnect to the depth and the beauty that's already within you. As we were commenting about the wild weather on the coast today, our mind and our body can be very similar in that fashion, where it swirls and it gets into these dark places, and then we come back out of it, and we can change that really in an instant, though there are times where it feels like it might last forever. Know that through our breath practice, through our asana, our movement practice, we have the tools to peel back some of these layers and find our inner knowing of strength. So as you come into a seat, feel free to stay cross-legged, but tonight I thought I would add a hero's pose if it's comfortable for you to sit on your heels. But I'm going to place a cushion between my heels. You can always sit up on blocks. And this is just adding another element of stretching out of the quadriceps. So if you've been active today, you might want to stack a few blocks or a few cushions under your seat, and you'll still benefit from sitting up taller, but getting into these big muscle groups on the tops of the legs. You're going to restrict some blood flow during this breath practice. And then when we're done, we're going to have that full flushing release. Now, resting your hands in your lap, Yana Mudra, thumb and forefinger, palms down to ground. Close your eyes. Take a full breath in, lifting the shoulders up towards the ears. And then as you exhale, rolling the shoulders onto your back. And a deep, long, waving breath in, shoulders roll up. Exhale, rolling down your back. Do that one more time. And just take a moment here to recognize anything that may come in as a distraction or may have already been there, and place it up on the shelf in your mind for later. The thoughts of what's to come, the things that happened earlier, getting ever more aware of how your body is in the space in this moment. We'll begin with box breathing, which is, for those that are newer, an inhale for a count of 4, a holding of the breath for a count of 4, an exhaling for a count of 4, and a holding of the breath empty for a count of 4. I like to envision like I'm drawing a box, and the inhale rises, the holding across the top, the exhale down the other side, and then the holding across the bottom. I'll count the first few, and then I'll leave you to count your own just for a couple minutes here. Exhale fully. We'll start together. Inhale for 4, 3, 2, hold for 4, 3, 2, exhale for 4, 3, 2, hold the breath out for 4, 3, 2, inhale for 4, 3, 2, 1, hold for 4, 3, 2, 1, exhale for 4, 3, 2, 1, hold for 4, 3, 2, 1, inhale, hold, exhale, hold, inhale, hold, exhale, hold. Inhale, keep going on your own. Keep going, but gradually transition your hands onto your hips. What I want you to pay attention to as you continue your box breathing is that you're expanding the rib cage and feeling the deflation on the exhalation, that there is a shifting, a moving of the ribs, as well as the inhale to expand. Letting the pause permeate through the stillness. When our mind is busy, the stillness can provoke more busyness. Trying to anchor into a point can be a challenge. So I want you to find a point of view behind your eyelids, looking to the mid-brow, to a speck of light. Like when you close your eyes initially, you'll see little specks of light behind the lids. Choose a point. Keep the eyes settled there and keep going. Wherever you are, keep going, but transition the hands up to the outer rib cage. Feeling again for the expansion. The subtle contraction. When we feel the ribs moving, we know the diaphragm is working, the intercostals are expanding and contracting. And if we're only feeling a subtle movement, that's fine. Keep building on what you sense, what you feel. You may start to notice your ability to breathe in longer, to hold longer as you continue to stretch your comfort of expansion and contraction. Take your time. Keep going, but transition your fingers to your shoulders and your elbows to the sky. So like your 5 fingers want to touch your scapula, the backs of the shoulders. You can slide the thumbs in front if you want to create a little pincher for the top of the shoulders, a little squeeze. Point the elbows up. If the shoulders are impinged, then maybe just do one. If there's one that's injured or limited, keep going with your box breath. Keep the eyes focused to that speck of light behind the eyelids, to the mid-brow. And this one may feel a little hard or a little more challenging as you'll feel your heartbeat to move the blood flow up into the limbs above the head, above the heart. Do one more full cycle. Gradually, when you're done that last cycle, release your hands to your lap, palms open, thumb and forefinger touch. Taking a moment to honor the lessons and the teachings that came before us through the depth of the yogic practice and its roots as they pass from me to you and you to others in your world. Continue to spread that message of connection, mind, body, and breath. Now, wherever you are in your seat, you'll gradually blink the eyes to open. Take a moment to either stretch the legs in front of you or the legs straight back behind you. We are going to meet in a seated position. So if you're seated, still cross legs, you stretch the legs out in front, and we will meet in a seated cross-legged position. Your hands can either rest on your knees here or fingertips by your sides on the floor. Little roots of plants growing into the earth can really feel grounding in that symbolism. And we'll circle the torso around clockwise to begin. Just some subtle circles as you roll across, in front, and slightly back. You'll feel the sitting bones shift from right to left. As you begin this, you might start with your eyes open and start to close the eyes if you can, and extend through the top of your head and your spine, that length, just feeling into your mid and lower back. Deep, long breaths of ujjayi, that oceanic quality of breath, that little whisper like the wind in the trees. You might even let the head roll a little more here, or extend from the chin to stretch out the neck and the throat subtly. Do one more circle here, and you'll pause in the center, eyes closed. You might feel a little bit of dizzy as the body likes to follow the momentum you've started. But we're going to reverse the direction, going over the right knee, around in front, over the left, tipping onto the sits bones, maybe even the tail as you come back and around. It's almost like you're stirring a pot. And you're stirring into the depths of your seat. And you're feeling what you feel as it rises up within you. And if there's a disorientation with the eyes closed, just open the eyes and follow a general circle ahead of you on the floor so that there is an awareness of where you are in space. And do one more circle here. Sit tall, close the eyes for a moment, shrug the shoulders up as you breathe in. Roll them down your back as you breathe out. Switch up the cross of your legs. Take your left hand to your right knee and your right hand slightly behind you to help prop you up, like a little bit of a rotational twist here. So as you come up, look over the shoulder. Use your left hand for a little bit of pressure to pivot the ribs just a little further. And you may even feel this into the inside of your left leg as muscles interweave and connect. As we look right, we might feel this down the inner left groin area. The eyes trail just along the floor. You might even close the eyes at any time to deepen that anchoring connection to your seat and the lifting quality of your inhale to lift and rotate, lift and rotate. Come back around through center, catch the knees, take a breath. Let it go. Bring the right hand to the left knee, left hand around behind, sit tall. And look over the shoulder. A bit of pressure of your right hand pulling your rib cage around towards the left. And try to do this with an invitation of your breath rather than a forcing of your physical body, that sometimes our extremities will force the body around. And rather than that, unwind just subtly and then look over the shoulder, twist, twist, twist. Now you'll come back through center, catch the knees, take a breath. Let it go. We'll bring the legs around behind And you're going to come into a hands and knees position. Now, if you have a prop here, use it. So whether it's a bolster, 2 blocks, 2 books, it can be any number of things. But you want to have one under each hand out in front of you. So from your tabletop here, hips over knees, reach the hands ahead of you onto a lift. If you don't have a lift, I'll show you what else you can do in a moment. And we want to keep the hips lifted and do an extended puppy dog position. So the arms stretch out, like a puppy at play, kind of stretches back. It might look up at you. We're going to take the eyes down to the floor. Might even kiss the mat with the forehead if it reaches. Otherwise, let the head hang here if it feels okay. If you don't have blocks or props here, you can also just be on fingertips. So little tented hands, and the elbows are lifted still here. We want to press into the hands enough that we feel a little bit of pressure into the floor, into our blocks, into our prop, and a widening of your back as you breathe in. Now your toes will tuck under if they're not already, just to stretch the bottoms of the feet, where sometimes we carry our tension from our hips or from our feet into our hips. And once you've assumed this extended puppy dog position, take a few more breaths here in an offering of your heart towards the earth, your hips towards the sky. It's a great way to open the front of the chest, the lat muscles, the pectorals into the shoulders. Now we'll gradually transition into a child's pose. And all that means is flip the feet, toes point. Knees can stay where they are. And you'll slide back far enough that the hands come onto the floor, the forearms, the elbows too. And let your head rest in the center. So as the hips sink back towards the heels. Now, if the knees are limited, the hips can, of course, stay higher. But the forehead and the arms come into a rested state. And we'll stretch the side of the waist by walking the hands off to the right edge of your mat. In that direction, the left arm starts with an extension. And I want you to take your forehead down, sink your hips back, and a bit of pressure of your left hip towards the outer left edge of your mat. Forehead heavy. Now, if the head is far from the floor, fold your right arm in and just make a fist or stack your head on top of your hand. But keep your left arm extended to the far edge of your mat. Getting that deep side body expression here with an anchoring back into your hips. And gradually walk the hands back to the center. Release the arms, the forehead, the hands. And you'll lift up just enough to walk the right hand to the far left side of the mat. Your left arm can reach out or take it so that the forehead has something to rest on, your fist or the back of your hand, and your right hip leaning towards your right heel. So the weight of the body drawing you back, letting the forearms rest on the floor. Now let your breath be the expansive into the outer right ribs. Like we're opening up from the inside out rather than forcing with the extremities, rather than welcoming with the breath. Take a moment to recognize the difference. Now gradually come back up through center. Stretch back to your final child's pose here. Let the forehead kiss the mat or the backs of your hands. Your forehead resting, shoulders relax back, letting your day fall away from your shoulders like water trickles off a duck's back. You're just letting that fall into the earth. Finding the space to release. Slide your hands next to your shoulders by your face, just enough to lift up, and tuck your toes under. And use your hands to press up into a forward folded position at the back edge of your mat. And in this forward fold, let your head fully go. I'm going to turn the world a little bit upside down here. Catch opposite wrist or elbow, or make fists with your hands and place them in the crooks of your elbows, but keep a deep bend in your knees so your ribs rest on your thighs or in that direction. Take a nice long breath in, full breath out. Straighten your left leg even just a little more as you bend your right knee in the opposite direction. So as you bend right, straight, and left, you might feel your torso fall inside your right leg. Let it. Let your head go. If your eyes are open, steady gaze to one point. If the eyes are closed, find that speck of light. Then bend your left knee a lot. Start to straighten your right leg as you transition across to the other side. As you come back to center, deep bend with both knees, release your arms, drop your hips and lift your heart to equalize the blood flow from your hips to your head. Transition hands to shins, so you're coming a little bit higher, still a deep bend in the knees, and the hands up to your hips. And on your exhalation, come all the way up to standing. That exhalation rise can really help with any blood pressure shifts that you might notice when you come up from being in a forward fold. And we'll start with shoulder shrugs from here, shoulders up, down, up, down. And I just want you to naturally bring the shoulders up and down at any speed that's working for you. So if you're allowing that to be quick, let it be quick. If you want to go up, down, choose a rhythm and keep the steadiness of the breath, that anchoring wave. There's something to be said about the consistency of the breath while the body might be moving in a different rhythm, a different rate. And then we'll pause the shoulder shrugs. I want you to pull the shoulders way back, squeeze shoulder blades together, and then swing the shoulders forward, slightly hollowing out the chest. So swinging shoulders back, often it's an inhale to an exhale. And again, you could go as quick with the breath, or just let the breath be and let the body shift its way around. What you will likely find is as you focus on your breathing, your body starts to follow that rhythm. Much like how the boat traveling across the ocean starts to find the gentle sway of the waves beneath it. You know, at times it may become erratic. When you find the right speed and rhythm, you start to find that unison. What we're doing is just getting the blood flowing, things circulating, so that we can find that deep stretch and rest for the end of our practice. Now gradually bring the arms to rest. Bring the hands out in front of you into little fists. And circle your fists out and away from each other. Pressing down through the heels and slightly out. The feet are parallel. They look like the number 11 if you took a peek down at your toes. Your hips are slightly pulled back over your heels. And here, only the wrists are rotating. And then switching the direction, rolling in. Good. That depth of breath ever more present. Pause, relax the hands, relax the arms fully. Take a big breath in here. And we're going to roll down chin to chest, ragdolling our way down towards the earth. So you gradually and slowly let the upper body drop, drape the thighs. Get right to the very base. When you think you're at the bottom, take a breath. Fall a little further forward still. Plug your fingertips down into the floor, even reach slightly ahead of you to bring your knees down onto the mat again. We'll walk the hands forward and come onto our belly. And as you come all the way down, point the toes back behind you. As you press down through the toes, the knees lift and create a little cobra snake here. Forward and down, exhale. I'm going to add a little king cobra variation. So hands come off the mat or half on, half off. Your elbows then will point a little higher up. Roll your shoulders back. Lift the back of the heart up and even push into your fingers slightly. But watch that as you push, you're not pushing your shoulders up towards your ears. You're keeping the shoulders shrugged away from your ears. Then looking right, take your left cheek down. Inhale to roll up. Exhale, looking left. Right shoulder, right ear, come down. Inhale, coming up. Exhale, other side. Inhale up. Exhale, rotate. Follow this wave of breath within, keeping and anchoring in your toes, the action and active legs behind you, keeping the whole body working with the rhythm. One more to each side. As you come back towards center, release all the way down. Tuck the toes under. Press up and back into a child's pose just for a moment, a couple breaths here. Forehead relaxes, forearms release. We'll lift the hips up and bring your right foot around and forward. So you're in a lunge position with your right foot quite wide on the edge of your mat. And if you have blocks, props here, highly suggest using either a stack of books, a couple of blocks, something you can lean into. So we want to have the knee over the ankle. So if you're in this position, knee passes the toes, just inch your foot a little further forward. Hands inside that foot. And if you don't have props, you'll just stay stacked on the arms, the elbows, and soften the elbows, lean your heart forward. If you have the space for the blocks, you'll go one elbow and the other. And I would suggest two, even if you think you've got space for more. We want to welcome a lot of breath here and a lot of expression through the body to be free to move a little further forward. So rather than where we might feel we're pulling back, we want to lean in to the front of the hip. Now, if the back knee is sensitive, you can lift it. That will be a little more activating, a little more fiery. Otherwise, put a cushion or a towel under the knee. You can point or tuck the toes, whichever feels better for your knees. Good. Let there be a place here to rest into. So when you're leaning into elbows, maybe you're leaning more in the left elbow, but you're gradually bringing the right elbow down or the palm by the foot. Riding the waves of thought and expression that come through. And coming back to that breath as often as you notice. Gradually come back up onto your palms. I would suggest tucking the back toe just a little here. If you need to adjust the knee, you can, but you'll pull your front heel slightly in, just a half an inch or so, and pull your toes up towards your knee. Activate that foot, pull your hips back, and then accentuate a little bit of an outward knee expression. So I'll just turn slightly here so you can see that. But if we're on the inside, the toes pull up and the knee is kind of tracking out. And we're going to go into what's called like a strange pigeon. And strange pigeon might be a little more accessible for some. So from here, we're moving in that direction. As the hips come back, I want you to reach your fingertips forward. And again, if you've got your blocks, you could have your hands on your blocks and a slight pull back, but also lean forward. And again, if that back knee is bothersome, it can be lifted a little more fiery or sensitive on the front of the femur rather than the knee itself. Come onto a cushion or a towel or a blanket. I prefer this one without the blocks because I like to move my hands around, but feel free to adjust so you can push the floor away. So you're sending your hips slightly back, and you may feel that a whole lot more on the outside of this right hip. Do your best in this variation. Just a couple more breaths. And bring your hands back underneath your shoulders. Spin your toes forward and bring that leg back around. As you come back around, let's go right to the belly for a simple cobra. Forearms on the mat, hands by your face, press down through the toenails, knees lift your heart. Forward and down, exhale. Let's just do one more here because it feels good to get long on the inhale and releasing on the exhale. Press up and back, hands and knees. Swing your left foot around, coming outside your left hand, coming back into the lunge for the other side. Bring your blocks, anything you're leaning into, otherwise use your hands. Cushion the back knee, set it, forward and down. And if you have the access to come to forearms, definitely do. You might even stack a third block if that's in your play right now. And if the knee is swinging really far out to the side, I want you to think about hugging the knee to touch your outer shoulder. You can just brush it. It doesn't have to squeeze it, but that there's an inward connection to the alignment. Riding these waves of breath. This practice and getting into that anchoring back to the box breathing. Notice the pauses between the breath. You don't have to pause for 4 counts, but just really accentuate the top and the bottom of each breath, finding that hesitation, that subtle flipping of the switch. So when the air in completes, to the air out completes. Gradually bring the hands back underneath you. Pull the hips slightly back, turn your toes subtly out, and peel the toes up towards your knee, and that's going to protect your knee. And the knee will go out just slightly. As the knee goes out, hands come forward, fingertips are on blocks, and then there's a slight pull back of your hips towards the heel behind you, and that might increase that outer IT band stretch. You might lean forward, escape some of that, and then move back in by pulling your hips back, like that puppy dog, extended puppy dog position. Just a few breaths here. I know a little more active release we're doing right now. We're getting to the releasing qualities of our lower back and into the outer hips. Two more breaths here. Ride that next wave of breath right to the edge. And sensations that come up without force. If there's force, back off just enough. Walk the hands back underneath and slide that left leg back. Shift your props out of the way, come onto your belly. Forearms to the floor, forehead to kiss the mat. Stretch the legs long, inhale to lift, simple cobra. Forward and down, exhale. Inhale to lengthen, shoulders back. Lift the head, the heart, one arc. And back down. Hands under shoulders, press up and back. You can transition through a child's pose if that's calling you. But we're going to make our way into a seated position with the legs around in front. Any prop you've got, whether it's a couch cushion or a block, have it within your reach, within your grasp. And we'll pull our hips towards heels. And actually, before we lie down, let's just take a moment to bring the feet to the outer edges of the mat, fingers out wide, and do a sway of your knees from side to side, releasing the connection of the femur into that hip socket. Now, the next time your knees come around to the right, your feet are nice and wide, your left knee will land slightly behind your right knee as you rotate to the side. We're in like little triangle right here in the inner leg, maybe a 90-degree with your back leg. I want you to sit up nice and tall, but you're going to be on this bit of a side angle. Take your left hand to your rib cage, pulling the ribs up. So we're not leaning into that hand, but pulling up and then rotating around. So you can use the hand to sort of push the ribs out of the way and bring both hands, maybe just fingertips of your left hand, maybe eventually both palms, sliding your shoulders down your back. And if accessible here, you might walk the hands forward and come down onto forearms. This is a nice way to rotate our middle lower back without too much tension. You can change the angle enough just by leaning out to the left if it's too much, but working to eventually align with the edge of your mat. Now, if you practiced this one with me before, you can also put your bolster underneath your chest here if it's close by, if it's something you're using. You could come down onto your torso and fully rest your head onto that bolster or even onto blocks. But staying on palms or up on forearms is plenty for most. Two more breaths. As you walk your hands back up underneath, unwind the spine, come back around through center, and take the knees all the way over to the left side. As you come to the left, you're leaning out into your left hand, which is often where we drop with gravity. So pick up the rib cage, turn towards the back edge of your mat. Where you meet resistance, pause, bring your right fingers to help support, maybe adjusting your hands. Shoulders back, working the hands flat. If the hands flat is simple, easy, you might work your way to forearms, lengthening out of the waist to rotate. If you feel your legs just sort of wrap around, you might miss this. So make sure the feet are still on the edges of the mat. Feel free to rest on your bolster or blocks here. Even just having something to rest your head on can relax the neck and the shoulders. Tap into the depth of your exhalation. What we feel, we heal. Where our mind goes, energy flows. What you're sensing, what you're feeling, if it's forced or it's tense, you might back off a little or simply breathe more deeply into and out of. Two more breaths here. As you walk your hands back up, try not to compress your lower back here. Unwind, come all the way around. Have that prop nearby as you roll onto your back. And you'll tuck either a little cushion or a block or a bolster under your hips. Just a nice way to decompress the lower back. There's no pressure in the spine here. There's a natural curve and actually a bit of a drop towards the earth. That little bit of drop, let's just extend the front of the hips. So we'll go right leg long. Keep the left foot for stability. Flex your right toes to the sky or up towards your knee. And then option here to add hands to interlace. Press your palms to the sky and reach back behind you for a nice long stretch for your psoas and your hip flexor. You'll get a deeper stretch by focusing on how long you can make that inhale and how long you can release that exhale. Stretch out through the elbows, through the right heel. And relax the arms, bring the hands back to the torso. Feel for the quality of the expansion of your ribs, even here while your hands rest. Slide your right foot back to flat and extend your left leg long, your left heel away from you, toes pointed towards the sky. So your flexion in your foot, hands can interlace, optional here. Otherwise, just let the hands rest on your torso and follow your breath, reaching up and back. You can actively extend or just simply extend out of the waist enough that you feel there's a deeper connection to the core of your body. And there's a muscle here, the psoas, that connects to the base vertebra, your lumbar spine, down and through to your femur bone. And this is helpful as we're moving and walking through life. We often forget the deep connections that cause this to happen, that are responsible for our movement. And gradually let the arms rest back on the torso. Feel for the expansion. Slide your left foot back to flat. Now you can stay on the lift here or take it out. Bring your feet up so they're over your hips, knees into chest. A little waterfall here. As you stretch your legs up to the sky, stacking the bones. So if this is causing tension, soften the joints, the ankles, the knees, maybe give the legs a bit of a shake, and then pause. Let that blood flow, especially the lower limb blood flow, come back with gravity. So a little bit of supportive movement here, back into our torso. A really beautiful way to just cleanse and clear our mind. If you've been sitting, standing, or really active in your day, this can be the most wonderful way to just reset and re-energize your mind and body. Not in a way that's sharp, but in a way that is just awakening. Go back to the depth of your breath. Take a few more here. When you feel ready, you'll bring your knees in towards your chest. You can either slide your block out here or put your feet flat first. Remove your prop, cushion, or otherwise. And as you release your hips, take a moment to feel that anchoring back to the earth. That deep connection. As you extend your legs, if that's comfortable for your lower back, go ahead and let the legs fall open, let the palms fall apart. Let your chest soften, let your jaw drop, your teeth separate, your face relax. A nice long inhale and a sighing. Allowing yourself this space to rest for a few minutes. You have the time, you've made the time, take it here. Every movement, every breath, a new pattern, a new development, a new sense of awareness and connection. At any age, any stage in life, we are able to rewire, repattern. It just simply takes practice. When we allow the body to be still, if we notice our urge to look, to see, to wonder and curiosity, let it flow through like clouds in the sky and just stay still. I'll let you know when it's time to move again. At this stage, this might be feeling really good, and you might choose to just stay a little longer. You may choose to start to bring awareness back to your hands, your face, your feet. You'll eventually bend your knees. Reach your right arm up. So as you roll to your right side, you'll cradle your head in your right arm. On your sides, pause here. Keep the eyes closed. Gradually return back to a seated position. Bring your hands to greet at your heart center. And simply observe the shift from the moment you started to this point here. That within you lies an inner strength, a courage, a depth beyond any ocean, an inner knowing, a vibration. Allow this to permeate through all of your cells and remind you of your greatness. Bow your head to your heart. Namaste.